Now we're going to work on correcting image distortion. The lens correction filter fixes common camera lens flaws such as barrel and pincushion distortion, chromatic aberration, and vignetting. Barrel distortion is a lens defect that causes straight lines to bow out towards the edges of the image. You can see in this picture right here how that's bowed out. That's what it's talking about. Pincushion distortion is the opposite effect, causing straight lines to bend inward. Chromatic aberration appears as a color fringe along the edges of image documents. Vignetting occurs when the edges of an image, especially the corners, are darker than the center. If you capture photos with your camera set to save RAW files, the Adobe Camera Raw plugin module for processing RAW files in Photoshop and Bridge has similar lens correction options in its panel. Some lenses exhibit these defects depending on the focal length of the f-stop used. The lens correction filter can apply settings based on the camera, lens, and focal length that were used to make an image. The filter can also rotate an image or fix image perspectives caused by tilting a camera vertically or horizontally. The filter's grid makes it easier and more accurate to make those adjustments than the transform command. So, this is what we're going to start with. When we finish, this is what it's going to end with. So I'm going to close my end. So go ahead and open up this columns start.psd and let's click file and save as, and we are going to make this say columns underscore and your last name. Make sure it's a Photoshop file. Going to your lesson 5 folder and click save. You see that it's now got the new name up there. All right, so now let's click filter and then lens correction. You see that? Right there. And when you do that, there's a dialog box that opens up over here. You can see this whole thing is, you're away from Photoshop right now. This is like opened up its whole new thing. At the bottom of the dialog box, make sure Show Grid is selected and Preview. And you see that when I checked that Show Grid, that these grid lines showed up. Makes it easier to line things up. To the right are options for automatic corrections based on lens profiles. Excuse me. In the Custom tab are manual controls for correcting distortion, chromatic aberration, and perspective. The lens correction dialog box includes auto correction options. You'll adjust one setting in the auto correction tab and then customize the settings. So in the auto correction tab, see you got custom here. Make sure you're on the auto correction tab and make sure auto scale image is checked and the edge is set to transparency. You see that you got an arrow here and you could change that, but we want it to be transparency and auto scale image. Then click on custom. In the custom tab, drag the remove distortion slider to about 52. Let's go 52. You can see how it straightened things out. Alternatively, you could select the remove distortion tool over here and you could drag and that would do the same thing. The adjustment causes the image borders to bow inward. However, because you selected auto scale image, the lens correction filter automatically scales the image to adjust the borders. So watch the alignment grid as you make these changes so you can see when the vertical columns are straightened in the image. Click OK, and that will close this dialog box. If the photo file lens information saved by a digital camera, or if you know the exact lens it was used, options in the auto correction tab may provide a better starting point. When the correct lens model and lens profiles are selected, the profile may provide precise corrections for that lens. So, good thing to know. The curving distortion caused by the wide angle image and low shooting angle is reduced. To compare the image before and after, if I press, let's see, I'm on a Mac, Command Option Z. So if you're on a Windows, do Control Alt and Z. If you're on a Mac, do Command Option Z, and that will undo the filter, and then press the same keys to redo it. So Command Option Z or Control Alt Z, and just go, you can press them back and forth, and that shows you before and after. That's a keyboard shortcut for Edit, Toggle Last State. See, there's your shortcut. So you could do Edit, Toggle Last State, and then do all that, but shortcuts are much easier. So click File, and then Save. Click OK. So your temple looks much more stable now. It doesn't look like it's all cattywampus about to fall. So let me ask you this. Which type of distortion occurs when the edges of an image, especially the corners, are darker than the center? The edges are darker than the center. Would that be vignetting, color fringe, barrel distortion, or pincushion distortion? If you said vignetting, you are correct. Congratulations. And you might see that again